What does it take to make a champion? Billy Mitchell and Steve Weibe are two men chasing the same title, the high-score world record holder for Donkey Kong. Billy is the reigning champ and the poster boy for the arcade community. Steve is a newcomer, pursuing the score from the outside, trying to break into a world that seems to be conspiring against him. In the end, only one set of initials will be entered and one man named the King of Kong.
Welcome to Movie Friends. My name is Seth.
And I'm Michelle.
Today we're talking about The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters from 2007. Directed by Seth Gordon, composed by Craig Ritchie, cinematography and editing also by Seth Gordon. Featuring interviews with Steve and Nicole Weibe, Billy and Evelyn Mitchell, Walter Day, Robert Murchek, Brian Q, and Steve Sanders. Michelle, what's going on?
Hey, Seth. How are you?
I am crawling out of a deep hole that I've found myself in researching this doc, Billy Mitchell and Steve Weibe, and the aftermath and the ensuing documentaries that have been made after it. And I feel like I'm done.
You're done. You're ready to discuss it.
I'm ready
it's
to
time
be,
to move
yes,
on.
I'm
It's
ready
time
to
to
be
move
done.
on. Yeah.
Also, it's 1 billion degrees.
I know. I mean,
But
how old does it get when we talk about the weather?
I don't care.
I know, it's like real-time updates, right?
It's what
I don't
I
care
feel
either.
right now.
Same.
But we do have to update people. Last week, you had a cat mission.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought this up because I was going to interject if you didn't.
Oh, no.
And if we didn't get to it. Yes, this is a huge update. I'm riding this high. If you listened and tuned in last week, we talked about spaying and neutering your pets. And I told the story of Waffles, the female cat that I feed outside, and how he have failed 3 times over a year and a half of trying to trap her so she could be spayed. And I've had to cancel appointments. Well, I trapped her on Sunday successfully. She's been at the vet. The vet was able to take her early. She had her surgery today.
Wow.
Yes. So no more babies for Waffles. It's very exciting.
There's got to be a nicer word than trapped, huh?
Captured? When I sent the text, because I updated everybody. It was like a news blast. I just sent a picture of her in the crate and I said I got her.
There you go.
I know trapped is awful.
Yeah. But this is huge.
It's huge.
If you don't listen to the show, Michelle is an active participant in her local cat community. No, that's not a community of people who take care of cats. It's the community of cats that surrounds her house.
Yes.
And the journey of Waffles has been a long one.
I know.
Including the birth of Moisha, who is your cat now.
That's right. Yeah. And the fact that you know who Waffles is, I mean, not just because I've told you, but everyone in my life, probably because I don't stop talking about it, asks about Waffles, knows who Waffles is. I mean, my life, the conversation topics of my life is very small. It has become Waffles, cats, and movies because I do talk about movies a lot with people.
There you go.
There you go, Seth. Congrats.
Speaking of people talking to us about movies, we got an email.
Yes.
Subject line is perfect bid. That was a fun one. And some people watched it who hadn't watched it before.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So this email says, I love that you guys got people to watch American Movie. And same. I loved Price is Right growing up. This story of the making of this movie is insane. I love CJ Wallace now. That cat story is wild. P.S. I have an official Price is Right t-shirt. My friend went to a taping. P.S.S. It was one of my dreams growing up to be on the show. And I think that's everybody.
Yeah.
And P.S.S.S. I love the tattoo idea. And that email's from Ben. And the tattoo idea that he's referring to is, I said, if we surpass Jamie Kennedy's podcast in Apple Podcast reviews, that I will get a tattoo to commemorate it. What should it be?
Well, didn't we joke that it would be like, did we joke or did I dream that? That it would be his face? We're not doing that to
I
you.
think I had said like it would be the number,
Oh, yeah, the
but it could be his
number.
face. It could be us standing over him, you know?
Oh, like, yeah,
It could be him like carrying us on a chair
both of
or
us, 2 chairs.
or us on either shoulder of
Oh, I
his,
like that.
and
Or
our
like,
hands are in the air
yeah,
and
that's good.
he's looking a little downcast.
That's good. Along with the number.
Update. We did get a review from France,
Oh
which
my
was very
gosh.
exciting.
Wow.
Unfortunately, it doesn't go towards the main number. By the way, listeners, in case you don't know, when you leave a review from a different country, it does not populate on our show in the United States because Apple only shows reviews for your own country, which is like, are we not in a connected world?
Well, which is so weird, right? Because it only shows what's in your country on your app, but then on Chartable we can see.
Yeah, so we can see them come in, but nobody else can. So we have reviews from Canada. We
Yeah.
have a review from France. We got one from another country, right? Remember? And it said, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah. Yeah, where yeah. Another international review.
So, anyway, thank you guys for leaving reviews. But, sad update, Jamie Kennedy's podcast also got a review this week. And so
No.
we can't do this one for one thing or he'll always stay ahead. We need a deluge. We need a flood to catch up to him.
Come on, guys. If you needed initiative, here it is. Here's your call to action.
Yes.
So funny
Anyway,
we're
thanks,
tracking
Ben.
his reviews.
Well, I just like to keep,
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Ben. If you still have it, I would love to see your t-shirt. If you could drop that picture in the Discord,
Oh,
our
yes,
lovely group
absolutely.
chat over there.
Also, for no reason at all, shout out to Alex Arlano on Twitter.
Why?
He said, you should shout me out on your podcast. And I said, okay.
Oh, that's funny.
Mhm.
Yes, send us more messages like that. We'll shout you out.
So before we get into our discussion of the film, we write down each other's rating or our guess at what the other person is going to rate the film. I'm missing my pencil and my pad, but I have a pen.
I have a
Michelle's got
mechanical
her.
pencil.
Ooh, ew.
Well, it's the only thing I could find in here.
That's the worst. I don't
Is
know
it
how you
because
feel
they
about
break so easily?
They break so easily. Has anyone ever replaced the lead on a mechanical pencil, or when it's over, you just throw it away?
Oh, I've replaced.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
remind me
yeah.
though of like dried angel hair.
Sure.
It just broke.
Yeah. Just looking at it just broke.
Perfect example. Okay.
Okay. I am writing down my guess for you. Are you unsure?
I'm good.
All right. It's locked in. So before we watch a movie for the first time, we record our pre-watch thoughts, and this is Michelle's first time watching this. So let's listen to that real quick.
Getting ready to watch The King of Kong, Fistful of Quarters. I originally just stored in my brain The King of Kong as that was it. And from talking to Seth and a couple of my friends just made me think that this was a movie about people playing Donkey Kong. However, Fistful of Quarters makes me think that we are in an arcade setting. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm going to put this here, Seth, so I don't forget. But what is your favorite retro arcade game?
So yes, Fistful of Quarters arcade, but this movie title is taken from two different movies. They didn't stop at just one. So obviously King Kong, right? King of Kong, colon, A Fistful of Quarters is the Sergio Leone Western, A Fistful of Dollars.
Well, I would have never gotten that. I mean, obviously I knew it was Donkey Kong, but when I think of Kong, I just think of the dog toys.
The what?
Like a Kong rubber dog toy where you stuff treats, it's red. Like if I had a dog, I would give them Kongs and I would be like, "You're the king of Kong." Anyway, moving on, moving on.
Is
So
this like
I
a widely known thing? A Kong?
Kongs? Yes,
Yeah.
if you're a dog owner, you know what Kongs are.
Yeah, this is going to be real rough because I pronounce Con,
I know. What is that?
not Kong.
Kong.
It's
Well,
Con.
am
King of
I saying
Con.
no? Get out! You do not say King Kong.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, King. Now I'm gonna be. Now I don't know how I say it. Now I'm all messed up now. King of Con. The King of Con. Yeah, that's how I say it.
King of Kong.
Well, yeah, I got a Long Island accent sometimes.
Well, where's mine?
I don't know. You pronounce your G's correctly.
King of Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. But yeah, Fistful of Dollars. It's the Man with No Name trilogy, starring Clint Eastwood, based on the films of Akira Kurosawa.
Wow, this just keeps going.
I know. Well, the title of this, the documentary name here is it's quite long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and then the explanation, and then
I feel like King of Con is good. It's it. That's it.
well, maybe they needed to add Fistful of Quarters.
I don't think so. Anyway, they did. So my favorite retro video game, going back this far, probably Pac-Man.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
these games are too hard. I'm just gonna say it.
Well,
Um,
also, I mean, I don't know what your relationship is with them, but I would only play them so sporadically when visiting an arcade. So
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like Pac-Man and Frogger, and then I liked Frogger on PlayStation.
Sure. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
PS1 Frogger game was fun.
so fun.
Yeah, get a golden fly, turn into a golden frog for a little bit.
Wasn't that so cool?
Yes, very cool.
Yes, the memory
Each generation of
unlocked.
each generation of video games has gotten harder and harder and harder. I mean,
Yeah,
easier and easier. Sorry.
easy.
So like when you play Atari games, it's impossible. You're dying 30 seconds in. You know what I mean? You really have to have great hand-eye coordination, and you have to really want to keep playing the game to even like learn how it works, you know? And then you get to like NES and it's a little bit easier. And then Super Nintendo, Sega, now it's like, all right, these are maybe more younger kids because it's not in a public setting like an arcade
Right,
where
right.
you're playing at a bar or a pool hall or like a pizza place. Now you're playing at home. And so like smaller children can play and the games got easier and easier. So not to say that all games are easier now, but I feel like they're not as punishing and they're designed to be played longer before dying the first time.
Yes, but I have to say on Super Nintendo, Super Mario Brothers 2 is very difficult, and the Lost Levels
The
is
Lost Levels, yeah.
really, really difficult.
Yes. So if you're listening and you think, Michelle, Super Mario Brothers 2 did not come out for Super Nintendo. Yes, it did in the Super Mario Brothers pack that had 4 games, I believe.
Yeah, I know.
Super Mario All Stars.
I had it. It was my
Yeah,
favorite thing.
yeah.
Yeah, but I never beat Lost Levels, and then John and Kyle finally beat it one summer, and I wasn't home to see it, and I was so sad.
Yeah, it's quite difficult. I tried when I got that cart, and it's yeah, not as fun and
But 2
enjoyable.
is hard too when you can, like, throw vegetables and stuff.
Sure, two. Oh man, this.
I know, I'm sorry. It's just
Oh, don't
mm,
be sorry. It's just
yeah.
we could talk about video games a lot, especially Super Nintendo. So I think I've mentioned on the show before, but I used to collect Super Nintendo games. And one time, Michelle came over to my house for a cookie exchange.
I think this was the first time I was at your house, Seth.
Do you know? Do people know what a cookie exchange is? Do we need to explain it, or should we just leave it at that?
A holiday cookie exchange. I think people
Yeah.
will know what that is.
And so I was like, come into my basement. And I showed you and Anthony my video game collection. And anytime I would do that, I just felt like the dumbest person in the world.
Why? Our minds were blown. And then
Because
imagine the conversation in the car ride home.
yeah, well, it's very nerdy.
That's okay. We're all nerdy about something.
Yeah. And
Plus,
so,
especially we loved Super Nintendo, so we thought it was the
right.
coolest thing. Yeah.
So I could relate greatly to a lot of the people and things in this film. Because in a different world, this would have been me.
Yeah.
All of that to say, probably Pac-Man. I really enjoy Pac-Man from this
Mm.
generation
Hmm.
of games. What about you?
Yeah, I would say Pac-Man. I probably have the most like vivid memories and Miss Pac-Man. Is it Mrs. Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man?
Miss Pac-Man.
Miss Pac-Man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And my dad
Yes.
liked Pac-Man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, here we are, the last episode of Documentary Month. This film was nominated by 3 different patrons, voted on, and I'm glad that this one won because it's such a great movie. How did you feel watching this?
This was really fun. And thinking back on our month, this
Mm-hmm.
fits so perfectly with American Movie Perfect Bid and now doing
Mm-hmm.
this. The
Mm-hmm.
Thin Blue Line was great into the introduction of like documentaries,
Mm-hmm.
but the three that follow are like its own special category underneath
Mm-hmm.
documentaries, and that kind of was just like a happy accident.
Yep. Obsession and
Obsession. Yeah.
dudes in America who they can't let something go and
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
Chasing a dream and a title.
Mm-hmm. There is so much to understand in this movie. And I think that you can just watch it and appreciate it the way that it's presented. And that's it. I think it does a good job of being like a contained story.
Mhm.
But there's like so much stuff behind the scenes. And I'm kind of like at a loss for how much of that stuff to include, because something that
Yeah.
we have said before is let's just focus on the movie. What is in the movie, right?
Yeah.
The problem is that after this movie came out, there's been a lot of contention about what is in the movie and what was included and what wasn't. For example, when we're introduced to Steve Weibe and he's saying, I looked up the high score of Donkey Kong and I saw Billy Mitchell's score and I thought I could beat that. Billy Mitchell's score wasn't the high score on Donkey Kong since the year like 2000. There was another guy that was just completely left out of the documentary.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, and the filmmakers say, well, that's because his score was not verifiable, but his score was the one that was on Twin Galaxies.
Wait, the
So,
person who wasn't Billy was on Twin Galaxies?
yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
And so a lot of the people involved in King of Con say, oh, they were just picking and choosing things to tell the story that they wanted to tell, et cetera, et cetera. But that's usually how documentaries work. You film a bunch of stuff and then find what the story is.
Yeah.
And so luckily there's enough just within the film, I think, to fill up our normal episode time.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about Steve Weibe. How did
Yes.
you feel?
Well, okay. We will. I think we're gonna do a breakdown of the characters, and I will answer you on Steve Phoebe. But this movie felt like it could be made into a fictional movie.
Sure.
Martin Starr could play Billy Mitchell. I don't know if you
Absolutely.
watched Silicon Valley, but his character in
Bits
that,
and pieces.
or his character on Party Down,
Hmm.
like I just could see him. And so, anyway, Steve Wiebe reminded me of Orion Atwood. So maybe Ben
Sure.
McKenzie could play him at when he was younger.
Hmm.
Steve Wiebe was the underdog, and I was rooting for him, and I really did enjoy him. But I can imagine being married to him would be difficult, even though his wife was very supportive. And I'm having mixed feelings, even though I enjoyed watching him. And like I said, I was an audible watcher with this. Like
Hmm.
I was really like screaming, and you can ask Anne about this, "Suck it, Billy," like, truly, like, "Up yours, Billy." I was
Yeah.
really, really, excited with this one. St like, I get being really trying to accomplish something, but when your kid asks you to wipe his butt. I don't know, and I don't have kids,
Yeah.
so but I felt this was kind of like, eh. The fact they showed this, I don't know if this was made today, I don't know if we would've showed
Yeah,
that.
that's like a really big sticking point for a lot of people online is that that whole scene, right? So Steve is working towards a world record and his kid
Yeah,
is like, "Wipe my butt." And I don't know if the kid is in diapers or, whatever.
yeah.
And he's like, "Bring me some toilet." I don't know.
And his
Yeah, I
kid
mean,
is, like, crying almost and saying, like, "Stop playing Donkey Kong!" And it's, like, this perfect example of, like, dad's too obsessed.
I rewound that several times.
Did
I
you?
don't know that his kid was crying.
Okay,
I
okay,
think
you've
that his
studied the
kid was
tape.
fake, not fake crying, but like, like, because it sounded like there was some laughter mixed in there too.
Oh, interesting. Let's get the
Yes.
kid on,
Well,
it's
we'll get the
been
kid on. They will definitely not remember being
well, I'm
3.
pretty sure they'll be like, "I remember how I felt."
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah. So besides that, and then how did you think of, like again, we've talked about this in back in American Movie and just having, like, a partner who's so obsessed with something and how our partners are supportive of us and we support our partners with what the different endeavors they're involved with.
Yeah.
What do you think of Steve's wife?
I think she has one of the best moments of the movie
Yeah.
when they have traveled. The whole family has traveled down to Florida to Billy's hometown for this competition that's going to be recorded in the Guinness Book of World Records. And, Billy Mitchell he's the guy. He's the Hulk Hogan. He's the Tom Cruise, he's the Michael Jackson. And he can't even bother to show up. And they're talking with Steve Sanders. And Steve Weibe says, "Oh, what percentage chance do you think there will be that he comes, that he shows up?" And Steve Sanders is like, "Yeah, you know what it is? It's just he's not ready. He's not like prepared." And I will say, like, in doing all of my research and stuff, the guys talk about this like as if they're getting ready for a boxing match.
It's like a sporting event.
Boxers train, throughout the year, but when you really train is when you have a match coming up. And that's how they talk about this. Like, you have to get back into the mindset. You have to put hours in every day. And so Steve is just kind of like, okay, yeah, he didn't prepare. And then the camera cuts over to Steve's wife, Nicole, and she's like, but he knew this was coming, so he could have prepared. And then it just kind of doesn't go
It was
anywhere.
great.
But
Mhm.
it's really great because one of the things about Steve is that he doesn't stand up for himself a ton and he's not
Yeah.
outspoken and braggadocious like Billy Mitchell is. No one will just like flat out say like Billy Mitchell shut up or Billy Mitchell this that or the other. And so Nicole being outside of the whole thing, she doesn't care. She's there to support her husband against this guy and he can't even be bothered. So I thought that was great. I thought
Yeah,
she was great.
that was a great line. That
Yeah.
was good, and I feel like, again, this felt like the way it was told and I mean, it feels like a mockumentary, but
Hmm.
the way it's story told feels like an actual movie, like a Ben Stiller type
Yeah.
dodgeball Zoolander. I just wanted to make a point about Steve Sanders.
Yes.
So, Ian Ziering, who does Sharknado,
Hmm.
his character on 90210 is Steve Sanders. And to me, looked similar to him, so I would cast him as Steve Sanders so he could play Steve Sanders twice. But anyway, keep going.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Mhm.
I was really surprised to see Seth Gordon say in an interview that they weren't sure if they had wasted 15 months of their time. He said that they followed Steve, they filmed all this different stuff. They filmed for a year and a half. And he said it wasn't until like they sat down with the footage that the story they realized like, oh, there is kind of a story here. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, I was curious of, like, was Seth did he come across Billy first?
Yeah, so Seth Gordon and his producer Ed Cunningham, they wanted to make a movie like a sports movie, but about this competitive arcade world. And so one of Weibe's friends, who is interviewed in the documentary, was a friend of someone that they knew, and like through the grapevine of like starting this process, they heard, oh, well, there's actually a guy who lives out here who is trying to make the Donkey Kong world record. And oh, by the way, some people just went to his house to like investigate his machine while he wasn't home. So it was
Wow.
after that happened that the documentary crew hooked up with him. And so everything prior to that is told through interviews with him. And then they're working with Steve past that point.
Some of the talking head shots,
Mm-hmm.
there's one of Steve, it's a wide shot of him standing next to a slide.
Mm-hmm.
What are these shots? Are these like, "Hey, guys, we need to fill in the space. Can you shoot it on your own?" There's one of, like, talking to Billy's parents. What a vibe.
Yep. Yep.
Steve's parents, we have this close up of his mother, and then we
Yep.
zoom out, and then we zoom back in, and I can't help but wonder, was this Seth or was this sent in because, again, please send us stuff to fill the
Yeah, I
space.
know, I know, and it's something that I didn't really think about until this time around.
Yeah.
Eh, all of the framing of the interviews, they are all different. So much
Yes.
so that one guy that they interview, one of the video game players,
Yeah.
he is framed, he's sitting in this concrete room, and you can
Yes.
see the 3-point light setup. You can see all the lights around him that are supposed to be illuminating him for the interview. um Real interesting, like really, really interesting. And did it bother you?
No, I was laughing.
Yeah, okay.
Like, Aunt and I were just like, "What is going on?" Like, who it just made me feel like now knowing that they
Yeah.
started doing their filming after they went in and to Steve's, garage and take out the motherboard,
Hmm.
were they you have to get all that were those pickup shots of just like, "Hey, send us what you can.
Yeah, it's
We'll try
yeah,
to
it's weird.
direct
Like
you."
just like the framing, like the headroom on
The
Steve in one point is like a quarter of an inch
Mhm.
above his head. Then it's
Mhm.
cutting off his head.
Mhm.
Then, like you said, we're standing out by this slide. It was
And his parents,
very
like,
inconsistent.
why did we, like, super close up
I
on
don't
Steve's
know.
mom? Then why'd we zoom out and then zoom back in? Like, it's shaky? I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it makes sense if they were doing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. I don't think it necessarily detracts from the film, but
No, it fits perfectly. It
yeah,
fits perfectly.
I love Steve. He's such an interesting guy, and in watching interviews of him after this was made, I watched an interview with him from 3 years ago where we're talking about Billy Mitchell and his records being taken down and being banned from Twin Galaxies. And Steve has many opportunities to go off and say anything. I mean, he has a lot of grounds to say a lot of stuff, and he doesn't
Yeah.
say anything. You know, he's just like, yeah, I hope we find out the truth. And, I've talked to Billy and seen him a few times, and, we're somewhat friendly. And it was just so nice to see because, like, everyone in the documentary has such strong personalities, right?
What a cast of characters.
Exactly. And Steve is like so reserved and like nice. And to see him like outside of the documentary years later, it's like, oh, that is just like what he's like.
Yeah. I mean, even seeing him interact, one, get vulnerable and emotional when he's crying in that one
Mm-hmm.
scene. Him making the phone call to Billy.
Mm-hmm.
And then even when Billy finally shows up and he says, "Hi, Billy," and Billy's like, "We're just him and his wife," which I really was shocked to see what his wife looked like, and I don't mean that in any kind of way of just I was everybody shocked me in this movie, okay?
Yeah, it's yes, yes,
But Billy just be like, "Oh, we're not gonna spend so much time over there." I'm like,
yeah.
I
There
literally want to punt you.
there are some people I don't want to spend too much time
Yeah.
talking to.
You can't even say
Oh,
hi?
oh.
You're a dill hole.
So let's talk about Billy Mitchell.
Wow. I feel
Wow.
like he seems not real. And
He
this has been, like,
seems
a
not real.
theme with the past 3 movies of, like, these people don't seem real, but the bottom line is these people are real,
Yes,
and people
absolutely.
are so fascinating, as we keep saying over and over that you and I are fascinated by people.
Hmm. I I've been making it very, very clear, with American Movie and Perfect Bid, and even some of like the Thin Blue Line.
Yeah.
There's some characters in that as well.
Oh, for sure.
We keep saying like we're not laughing at these people. We're laughing with these people. We like these people.
Yeah.
We're interested in these people.
I'm fascinated.
Yeah, like we think that they're
Yeah.
cool. I would want to spend time with them. I would want to be around them. Billy Mitchell, I am laughing at you. And I don't feel
Yeah.
bad saying that.
Yeah.
I resist arrogance and the whole idea of having a persona of excellence and perfection and oh, my initials that I put into the machine is USA because I have to keep USA on top, which
Oh
is
my.
like okay, because you played against one Canadian guy, like please get out of here. Like okay.
He also compared something to abortion rights.
He says the film, no matter what I say, it's controversial. It's kind of like abortion.
Yeah.
Sure, Billy Mitchell.
Okay, Billy
Sure.
Mitchell.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, there's a lot involved here where, he has been in legal battles with Twin Galaxies and Guinness and various YouTubers who have made claims about him. And all that gets very complicated and very, very interesting. But just from those talking head moments with him, not talking about his records, not talking about how he plays, just in those moments with him, I'm like, dude, you are a dweeb. And
And the villain.
yeah, and like I feel bad for you because clearly you're not self-aware of like what you're doing, but holy moly, this guy.
Well, it's like you let the past define you. You had
Mhm.
some sort of success and then just got a group of people, minions,
Mhm.
to follow. And like Walter Day, who is the ref who wore a ref shirt, which made me LOL.
Constantly.
He would in the beginning he was describing Billy as like, "Oh, this charming guy."
Mhm.
And I was like, "What?"
Mhm.
He could sell you anything. He could charm you anything. And I was like, this
No, I think
guy?
he can like
Yeah,
try to be
manipulate.
intimidate and manipulate and
And maybe
you
in this
know
small community, it wasn't looked further into who can beat who. And then him and Steve were competitors at a time, but then became friends. So then you have Steve
yes,
Sanders
yes, he
being a
humbled
buddy.
Steve Sanders.
And then the person I find the most fascinating in this movie is Brian Koo.
Brian Koo.
I I am obsessed with Brian Koo. 30 years old, retired.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get past it. I was on the forums this morning. I
Trying
was
to
on
figure
the
it out.
forums looking up Brian Koo and being retired at 30.
Yep.
And yeah, those
Did
are
you get
some
anywhere?
interesting. Not really, just people saying there's no way. And then people are like, leave him alone. And they're like,
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
we're not
yeah.
like, I'm just like, wow, you retired at 30 so you could travel to Fun Spot. And he just cracked me up how he was just on the phone. He's like the evil little sidekick
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
telling Billy all of
And
Steve's
Steve at a later
updates.
point is like, when they're in Florida,
Yeah.
Steve is also like calling him and like, oh, you'll never believe who
Yes.
just walked
I
in the restaurant.
You're like, this has to be written. But
Yes.
no, oh my God, that restaurant scene.
Mark Alpager just walked in uninvited with Steve Weibe. It's like, are we five? Like, are we? And
Right.
unfortunately, again, just from what the film shows us, it does appear that a lot of these people in this part of their life, I'm sure all these people have jobs and families and lives apart from this, but when they come to these competitions, they are in this mindset of like, I'm a 14-year-old boy standing at this arcade machine just as I was in the 80s and
Yep.
nothing has changed.
Yeah. I mean, Brian going around and being like, oh man, Steve's about to get to the kill screen. The kill screen. Steve Weibe's about to get to. Guys, do you want to? And you were just watching him in the arcade, trying to grab everyone to come watch. I'm like, wow.
Well, I love that part because it's funny, right? And Brian's
He's
he's
serious about
enthusiastic, yeah.
it, but
But at the same time, I
yeah.
noticed that Brian is doing his interviews 15 feet away from Steve as he's attempting to break this record, talking very loudly. I think that he's doing all of that stuff to distract Steve because
Oh,
not
for
only
sure.
is he trying to defend Billy, but he's the one who wants to beat Billy. And he
Yeah.
says, he's like, oh, I thought I would be the first one to achieve a kill screen at Fun Spot, but maybe not. But maybe he'll crack under the pressure. I don't know. And so, you know, Brian is like, well, I'm going to make sure he cracks under the pressure and I'm going to gather everyone around him and,
Mm-hmm.
leer over. And they talk about like playing mind games. And
Uh-huh.
dude, I would turn around and punch someone in the gut. And
But
I'm
like
not a
in that
violent person. But if
right.
I traveled
Yeah.
to New Hampshire to play this game and you are like talking to me, I'd be like, I will see you after. Do not talk to me. Do not touch me.
But you've seen season 1 of the OC. We're gonna do season 2 soon, so you'll see a little bit more of Ryan's development. But in that moment, it just reminded me of Ryan Atwood being totally like in a room full of Seth Cohens
Mm-hmm.
and, and Ryan just keeping his cool. Like
Yeah.
Steve is so above. He's just I mean, he's wearing athleisure wear.
Yes. 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 Yeah. And like I said, like it does seem like he's a little bit outside of the
Yeah.
world, especially in how he's trying to break in
Yes.
with Walter Day and Twin Galaxies, and people aren't inviting him to come to the restaurant, and Billy Mitchell isn't acknowledging his existence, and they're questioning his videotape. Meanwhile, they accept you know, Billy Mitchell's videotape right away. And so not only is he an underdog, but like they're literally gatekeeping him. Like
Mhm.
every step of the way, they're like, no, you have to prove yourself to us.
Right.
And it's so pathetic when Walter towards the end is like, you know, you've done it, you've proven yourself to us, and if you want to send us any tapes, we will accept them and we will look at them. And it's like, yeah, Walter, is this how you run things? Like literally, like this is how you do it? People have to jump through your hoops. People have to come in and be part of your community. Excuse me? That's not
Yeah.
impartial judging.
I
Like I,
know.
I get so mad when I think about that whole thing because Walter Day, seems like an okay dude. He starts this arcade in the 80s, Twin Galaxies. It goes out of business in a year. And him and Billy Mitchell work together to try to bring together this competitive gaming community. I saw one interview that said Billy Mitchell was like sleeping on the floor of Twin Galaxies for a while as there was no money. Like they were trying to like build something. And then Billy kind of leaves the scene to go run this restaurant. And so he's this guy who had these records, was doing all this stuff, and then he's gone for a while. He's not
Yeah.
like doing competitive gaming. And Walter Day is like trying to keep this whole thing alive. At one point, Walter Day sold the rights to Twin Galaxies for $1,000. And so it's not, always been this thing that they present it to be. Not the filmmakers, but
Yeah.
Walter and Billy. If
Yeah.
you ask that group of 6 to 10 guys, they'll tell you, "Oh no, Twin Galaxies, it's the number one
Yeah.
source for the right scores." And he's having Robert Merchek watch 48 hours of Diggler. For free. You know what I'm saying? Like all of these people, they're donating their time, to
Mhm.
like keep this thing alive and to make this thing legit. And then you have the gall to make Steve Weibe jump through these hoops because he challenges Billy Mitchell's score. Like, get out of here, man. Get out of here. That's horrible.
I feel like I could have done without seeing, a like, Walter's background. I mean, we see him playing guitar out in the snow for just a
Mm-hmm.
little bit too long.
Mm-hmm.
We see him transatlantic meditation. I was like, "Oh
Mm-hmm.
gosh, here we go," which Andy Kaufman was very into.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yeah, you're an interesting dude, but I felt like whenever we spent too much time with him, like learning more about him, and in me, who always wants to learn more about people, I was like, I'd rather learn more about like Brian or Roy. Let's do
Sure.
Roy.
Roy Schultz. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, we did.
Wow.
We did
You
spend a little
know?
bit of time with Walter, and I think it was.
Did you feel
I think it
that
was
way?
okay. Um, we're spending a lot of time like in his car.
Oh, yes. Talking about his music career or what he's trying to do, his album or,
Yeah, and so
yeah.
I'm curious, like, okay, how much of that was just like stuff that they had? Was the film originally just about him, just about Billy, just about like this world of
Yeah,
scorekeeping?
right.
Um, I thought it was okay though to see like another dimension to him because you just see him in this striped shirt and you're like,
He's a ref.
he's the striped shirt guy. That's
Yeah.
and then we see these kind of different sides to him. But yeah, Walter was the most frustrating. Like really for me, like I was just like because it's all nonsense. All of these guys' reputations and like yes, fine. The scores, sure, let's say that they're all legitimate. That is very cool for you and for the people who care about Centipede and Missile Command and all of those things. But you're trying to puff it up to be this big legitimate thing. Anyway, you brought up Roy Schult, who is like the villain to the villain in this movie.
He's the nemesis
Yes.
to Billy, Roy.
Mr. Awesome with the videos. And I found Roy Schultz YouTube, by the
Did
way.
you?
It only has 3 videos. Very disappointingly, there's only 3 videos. And it's about his Missile Command score and the conspiracy to suppress it. It's so interesting to see these guys fixate on things for literal decades
Yeah.
because it's not like Roy Schultz is like, oh, I have a Missile Command score that I did yesterday that they're still not accepting. No, he is talking about his Missile Command score from decades ago and how Twin Galaxies is corrupt. And it's crazy because when you watch this movie, you're like, oh, Roy Schultz, you're a little interesting guy, and you think everyone's against you, and then you watch the rest of the movie and you learn about things that happened after the movie, and you're like, oh, Twin Galaxies actually was mismanaged, I guess I will say, and some of the scores were not true, and Roy Schultz was right all along.
Yeah, I know. I found Roy's website today, but it's an unsecure website, which made me LOL. Like my browser came up with a warning like this with a warning that said this is unsecure.
Yeah,
It's pretty funny.
I love Roy Schultz. So him and Steve met at like a video game con,
Yep.
and then they were talking about different things, and Steve didn't realize that he was playing like a different version of Donkey Kong. And Roy was like, yeah, you're actually playing something called Donkey Kong 2 or Donkey Kong Double. And Steve was like, oh no. So he tried to buy a board off of eBay. The listing got taken down, whatever. And he mentioned it to Roy. And Roy was like, oh, I'll just buy you a board. So he buys Steve a board through an arcade dealer. And that's why his address was on the return, because he like bought and paid for it, but it was shipped to Steve Weibe. And that's where all the controversy came from.
So ridiculous for two guys to show up to their
Yeah.
house and be like, we need to investigate the game.
And so that part might have been a little different. Brian Koo claims that Steve Weibe changed the meetup time 6 times. And so eventually they were just like, we're just going to go there. And they ended up waiting. And Nicole was like, no, you can't come in. But then their mother-in-law let them in and gave them a quarter to play Donkey Kong while they waited.
Oh my God.
And then Steve came home, and I don't think it was the kind of thing where they like scurried. Like I think they hung out and like played Donkey Kong together. But it's while they're there that they notice like, oh, the whole Roy Schultz thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was something that a lot of the people involved in the film were like, that's not how it happened. The movie was making things up. And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of people who are not happy, this one guy, Dwayne Richard. He's not in the movie a ton. He talks to Steve at Fun Spot. He's wearing like a bucket hat and he's got kind of like dreads a little bit.
I think Dwayne was on the forums.
Dwayne was definitely on the forums. Yes.
Dwayne was the forums I was reading this morning.
Yes. He's
Oh,
very, very
yes.
involved. So he has made
Yes.
2 documentaries. One is called The King of Con, C-O-N, and it's all about how the King of Con is nonsense, which I spent a good amount of time prior to this watching. I
Is
haven't
it
finished
good?
it yet.
Is it worth watching?
No. He
Oh.
kind of shoots himself in the foot because he's like, we're going to show how the King of Con is nonsense, but then spends the first like 35, 40 minutes being like, I should have been the subject of the King of Con because here are all of my accolades.
Oh,
And he
God.
just goes through like all of the things that he did as a young kid in Canada and his high scores. And so it's like, okay, nope, sorry. Like, I just don't
Mm-mm.
believe anything you're going to say because now this is just sour grapes. Like, you're just jealous
Right.
that
Right.
you had a bit part in this story and they gave it all to Steve Weibe, you know? He also made another documentary called The World's Greatest Con Man or World's Greatest Fraudster or something that's also about Billy Mitchell. Both of the movies are about like just how much Billy Mitchell sucks and Walter Day. And I also watched a video from Dwayne Richards' documentary was shown somewhere and Walter Day showed up in the in the referee shirt and he's reading emails from Dwayne in front of the crowd. It's
Whoa.
nasty. There's so much to this story, like post this movie coming out, and like someone who's actually good at making films should make like a follow
Mm.
up
Like, would
to like
Seth
the
do a
Community.
follow-up? Because the way this movie ends, it ends in such an epic way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it
Yeah.
literally just filling you in what happens next, and you're like, "Oh my g what?"
Yep.
So it leads the viewer wanting to know, "Well, where did this go?"
Yes.
It's like a
Absolutely.
perfect. It's setting you up for a sequel.
Well, the movie ends, and then it's like a record scratch, and it's like, oh wait,
Yes,
actually,
but that's what I'm saying. It, like, sets you up for a
yeah.
sequel.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, "Oh my god, I hope Michelle kept
Can
watching
you
past when the
imagine?
credits start." Yeah.
I'll tell you when it ended, I was like, "Man, are you
Yeah.
kidding me? Suck it, Billy. I'm so mad." And then we get the update and the resolution, and I was like, "Yeah!"
Yeah.
I was so tuned into the drama.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
it and Ant too. Like, we were both, like, on the edge of our seats.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know how far you looked, but Walter no longer runs Twin Galaxies. The
Yeah.
owners have come out and said they've made statements about the things that were done incorrectly. They struck Billy Mitchell's records. He's never allowed to submit
Yeah.
records for them anymore. Guinness also took the records, but they walked it back. And I watched the video from the editor in chief of Guinness, and in my opinion, I am not convinced
What do you mean? What do
on
you mean
their
by that?
decision being correct to walk it back.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes, and this is where it starts to get into really technical stuff.
Yeah.
And again, just looking at what's said in the documentary, everybody talks about real machines, right? Not messing with anything. You got to do it at Fun Spot. You got to do it live. All this different stuff. And the internet is really great for sleuths. Things don't mysteries and documentaries don't last long once they hit the air, right? And so many people have looked at Billy Mitchell's tapes, and this is all beyond me. So I will say that, and this is all alleged. But the alleged story is that Billy Mitchell's tapes come off of what's called MAME, which is Multiple Arcade Machine Emulator.
Oh.
And so he's not playing necessarily an original Donkey Kong board, he's playing an emulator.
Wow.
And emulators can be adjusted and paused. Paused is the biggest thing,
Yeah,
right?
right.
When you play an arcade game to get to level 20, you have to get to level 20. And if it takes you 10 lives to figure out how to beat level 20, you have to get there 10 times.
Right.
With an emulator, you can pause and rewind, and it's all very, very
I mean,
different.
even that video that Billy
Oh my
sends
God.
in,
I know.
and they
The
all
copy.
gather to watch
Yep.
and there's like a glitch, and they're
Yes.
like, it is so foolproof right there that there's a glitch, but yet they're like,
Uh-huh.
no, we have to accept this.
They're like, oh, great. And Billy later would say that he did not intend for that to be submitted as an official score. He said that that was only for entertainment purposes.
Oh, give me a break. Give me a break.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
so full of it.
You can go online and watch some Billy Mitchell depositions. It's very, very interesting. He's caught a few times in a few
Yeah.
different, really, really interesting things. But what he did do is he did buy Doris Self her own Qbert cabinet.
This was really sweet. He was really passionate about this.
Mm-hmm. How'd you feel
And
about
brought her to the
Doris?
airport. I mean, she's adorable.
Mm-hmm.
She's like this little adorable nugget who just, I imagine just wants to like relive the old days.
I was so
Like it's her joy in life.
rewatching this. I was like, is this actually her joy in life? Because every time she's talking about it and Billy's around, Billy's like, now we're going to take this seriously and you're going to be a world record champion and you're going to put in the time. And she's like, okay.
Well, okay, when the machine gets delivered, she's so
Yeah.
excited.
Yes.
But then when Billy's like, "You gotta do that," what you just said, I think she's just humoring him like, "I just wanna, casually have a
Yeah.
memory. I'm not going to compete with this."
Yeah. And like, so I was like, what's the backstory here? Did Billy Mitchell just like meet her? And she's like, I like playing Qbert. And he was like, I will turn you into my Qbert disciple. Like,
The
does Billy
prodigy.
Mitchell have people all around town that he's delivering cabinets to?
Yeah, and this just made him look like, well, was trying to, a man of the people.
Right. Right.
Rah,
And
rah, USA.
that's what's hard about telling a story is maybe Billy Mitchell does have Qbert disciples all around town. Maybe he really does enjoy doing that. And
Sure.
maybe he's a really nice guy. Or maybe they wanted something to look good for the documentary. It's really hard to say. The way that the documentary frames it, it is definitely more sinister, especially including her being like, oh, Billy is very conniving and manipulative. And,
Yeah.
I was like, oh
Yeah,
my
but you
gosh,
can't you
Doris.
can't have Billy you can't force him to say and the way he said things and why he
Oh,
chooses
no,
to
no,
wear
no.
what he wears. And
No, not
even
everything, not everything,
yeah,
just the Doris thing. It's
just the
hard to
Doris thing.
parse
Yeah. And well, also,
which
listen, people are layered. So,
yes. Yeah.
yeah.
People are very layered, like Billy's hair.
We need a hair tutorial.
What is it about delusional men in this country who think that they're much greater than they are and their hair?
I was just like, wow, it looks soft, but it doesn't move. So
Oh,
what product are we using?
I didn't think it looked soft at all. It looked stiff as a board.
You think so?
It's like
I
a
don't think
helmet.
so. It was a
Oh, it's like a
helmet, but
helmet.
it
It's
looked like it
stiff.
was yeah, in the front though, it didn't move, but it looked
Yeah.
like it looked soft and well conditioned.
I need a picture of Billy Mitchell and Donald Trump next to each other.
Ugh.
Like I need the two hairs.
The
Like
2 hairs.
I just need I need like a buddy movie. You know how like in like buddy movies it's like two unlikely people coming together and they fight and they quarrel, but then in the end, they come together. I need like Trump and Billy Mitchell to meet for some reason and they hate each other, but then, in the end they band together and fight against the bad guys.
And once they're not fighting against the bad guys, they're fighting against the good guys, and once who are we kidding, Seth? But in that movie, there will be a hair tutorial they'll
Oh,
be
oh,
fighting
yeah,
over
there's a
which
montage.
hair
Yeah,
is better and
yeah,
how they do it, what brown, give me a round brush, or here's a good
yeah.
secret.
Maybe they both come out of the shower at the same time, and, like, the steam is like smoke, and, like, they come out, and then they're, like, hogging the mirror,
Uh-huh.
and,
Yeah.
like yeah,
Yeah. We got a little bit of Billy doing his hair.
a little bit, yeah.
Like, like, it was, like, through the crack of a door, and I was like,
Right.
"Oh, good," and then we didn't get continuation of that.
Yeah. That was weird,
That
honestly.
was weird, I know, there's some really weird shots in this. Some really weird shots.
So Donkey Kong, the original,
Donkey Kong,
it's
yes.
difficult. It's a difficult game. I've been playing it for, like, 3 days now.
And you're playing on a computer?
I'm playing it on a computer,
Mhm.
so this is MAME. This is an
Yes, an
emulator.
emulator. How far are you getting? What's your high score?
Oh, I don't know what my high score is. The highest that I've gotten, I think I've gotten to, like, level 6 or 7, like, I may have started level 7. I never really played it until researching for this episode.
Mhm,
So there's 4 levels.
mhm.
There are the barrel levels, which is
Yeah,
what you start out on.
yeah.
There's the elevators, which have the springy things. There's the rivet levels, which that took me a long time to understand what to do. And then there's a conveyor level, which I haven't
Ooh.
gotten to. So I think that that comes later. So I haven't played a conveyor level yet.
Mm.
But each, yes, like you beat the first 3, and then it just starts over at another barrel, and things are like a little faster, or there's like another type of barrel. And so with enough time, I can see how you could make it further and further. But to get like a million points, like it's not like each level, if you just play it through, you end with like 100,000 points. Like I was ending each level with like 7,000.
Yeah.
So you got to like hang out in there and like jump
Get
over a
all the
bunch of
things.
barrels, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that was more impressive to me. Not just that like they make it to the 24th level, but that
Mm.
they're racking up all of these points doing it
Grabbing.
without dying.
What kind of player are you? Are you someone who just wants to get to the end? Not an arcade. Like if you're playing Mario. Are you someone who's collecting all the coins or you're just getting to the end?
You know, I prefer role playing games. That's my favorite type of game. And Earthbound is my favorite game ever for Super Nintendo. And I really like the Final Fantasy games. Some of the Zelda games, there's a lot more like exploration. I love to walk up to every item and press X to see if it does something. I'm looking at every single thing. I'm going behind every waterfall. I just like to
I
explore.
know you like the waterfalls.
But like when you're playing like Mario, I don't get every coin because I don't need every coin because I know that getting all the coins doesn't do anything,
Well, you get one ups and stuff.
Sure, but I don't need them
Why not? It's always good to have some
because I'm
extra
good.
lives.
I could beat Super Mario World by myself in probably less than 2 hours.
Are you
E-
jumping or
Every
you're going
board.
straight through? Every board?
Oh yeah, every board. Yeah, yeah. Super Mario World, not Super Mario 3. That would take me longer, and I probably couldn't do it.
I mean, Super Mario 3, you can beat it. You just jump to the last, use the whistle.
Right, right,
You
right, right,
just
right,
jump
right.
multiple boards. Yeah.
No, Super Mario World, I could do every
I've
level.
never beaten Super Mario World.
Oh really?
I
Oh, it's
love
so
that
fun.
game.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
so fun.
Yeah. I want to play video games now.
Yeah, video games are great.
That and Spyro. Did you ever beat Spyro?
Spyro's great. I'm
The
sure I
original
did
Spyro.
because I had the first 3 Spyros.
Wasn't it gorgeous? I mean, when it first came out, the first one was so talk about going behind waterfalls.
Yeah, it's quite blocky now. If you go back, if you look at them now, it's like
No, I know, but
holy
when it first
moly.
came out, it was quite pretty.
Yeah,
And you'd get to the edge and they're like, you can't go any further. So just bounce back.
I liked Rayman because it looked hand drawn. I don't know if you ever played
Yep.
Rayman.
I
That
know
was
what
a
that one
cool
is.
animation
Yeah.
style for the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of realism in video games. Like
Mm.
now, it's like, oh, this thing looks like a person talking to me, and I'm like, I want like a little blob guy, to be rolling
Yeah.
around and
Yeah.
snatching
Well,
coins.
I'm like
I,
in between. Like I'm dying to play the original Sims. I don't
yeah,
want the expansion packs. I just want to play the original, no like more towns,
Yeah.
no vacation. I just want to play. I want to play so bad.
I've never played a sim. Just Sim
What?
City. Just Sim City,
No, 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 no,
which
no,
I
no,
imagine is very, very, very different.
no,
But
no. I mean, The
loved Sim City.
Sims is like, it's like a part of my identity.
That's your favorite?
Oh, that's my favorite.
Have you ever been a sim for Halloween?
I have been. Yeah,
Wow.
of course I
Nice.
have. Yeah, and I held
Of
up
course.
like Aunt Wen as the mime sim,
Okay.
and you don't know what that means. And then I had like my little plumb bob, I think is what it was called, the diamond, and I held up like a thought bubble with a toilet, and I was like,
Nice. Very nice.
"Thanks, I love The Sims."
You should make a new Sims game and put in it movie characters from all the movies we've done.
Wow. I mean, I when I was playing, I made the OC house,
No, you need
so
you
I've
need
done
a
that.
King of Con house with a Billy Mitchell in it, and
That would be a fun avatar to create.
yes, a
A
Doris
fun sim.
Self, a Brian
Yeah.
Koo.
Oh, Brian Koo. Yeah.
The only other guy I want to talk about is Mark Alpiger.
Mhm.
I love this guy. He's the guy in the documentary with the mustache. He talks about playing Crystal Castles. He plays Marble Madness with his foot. He takes his shoe off. And I actually saw someone do that in real life.
Whoa. Did it gross you out
Yes.
because you hate feet?
It was a little strange to me because I was
Mhm.
like, oh, you just whipped your shoe off and you're putting your sock. I don't know if this makes sense, but to me, a sock is more gross than a foot.
I mean, it's just a foot glove.
I know, but like, let's see. Let me see how to.
Is it because you're assuming that that sock is then going back in the shoe, which is then going back into your home while this but the sock protects the foot.
Yeah, I don't. I can't place it. Like, I'm very particular about socks. Like, if a sock starts to have holes and stuff, it's got to go.
Well,
You
good, you
can't keep
should.
it. Like,
Yes, good.
no.
Good, good, good.
But like, okay, let me ask you this. I'm gonna ask you two questions. You got a plate of potato salad. Okay, someone puts their foot in it, not like smushing in it, just like touches the top with their foot, or someone touches the top with a sock on.
It makes no difference. I'm not
Which
eating
one?
that I'm not eating that potato salad.
I would eat the foot one.
Okay,
before I before I would eat the sock one is what I'm saying.
that's fine, but
Second
that's
question.
still
Second question.
Okay, okay.
You're sitting in a chair and someone walks up and just puts their foot on your cheek or they put a sock on your cheek. Which one is grosser?
The foot.
Man, I think the sock is grosser. I can't explain why. I
You're
think
still not explaining like, I get your examples, but
I guess I'm like, okay, a sock. Okay, like a
is it
foot
because
is
it
a foot,
hold
but a sock can be anything.
what kind of socks are you wearing, and what kind of socks have you been surrounded by
I don't
and
know.
with?
I don't know. This
Have you
has to.
you must have some, like, deep,
Yeah,
bad sock trauma.
this is what I'm thinking. Like I'm thinking like, why am I
What
thinking
happened?
this? I don't know. Somewhere in my life there was a sock.
Yeah, it must have been real effing gross, and not a sock of what we're thinking. Did someone, like, use a plastic bag as a sock or, like, a potato sack
Well, when
or
you were a kid,
yeah,
when you went out in the snow, would you put bread bags on your on between your sock and your boot?
bread bags?
Yeah, like a loaf of bread comes in a bread bag. So it's like a plastic bag, but it's long and
Yeah,
tubular. You
yeah.
never did that?
No, you did?
Yeah, so we would oh, it was great. It was the best thing ever. So yeah, you save all your bread bags and then when it's time to go out in the snow, you put your socks on and then you put on a bread bag and then you put your foot in the boot and lace it up so that if you get snow in, your socks don't get all you can be outside for much longer
Do you
cuz
do
you're
this with your kids?
um yeah, yeah. I don't have bread bags, but I just put some kind of bag. Yeah, I put their foot in a bag and then in the boot.
Whoa!
Yeah.
That's mind blowing.
Yeah. You don't get soggy socks.
I never thought to put my foot in a bread bag.
Well, now you will.
I still don't understand why you're more grossed out by socks.
Well, yeah, why did
Because right
we got
there,
off?
well, um,
Just keeps your feet dry.
no, I
The
get that,
bag.
but that to me is the bag is making the sock cleaner, so it's not really
Yeah.
supporting your
Yeah.
statement of you're more grossed out by the sock.
I can't place it, man. I don't know
Okay.
why. But anyway, so yes, so to answer your question 10 minutes later, I was grossed out as a teenager when this guy played Marble Madness with his socked foot.
I can't believe you have the grip.
Yeah, it's weird. And I will say he played it very well.
Okay, I know I don't wanna keep going, but I do have one more question for you.
Sure.
Are you as grossed out by toe socks?
Well, toe socks are evil. Yes, those are gross.
Okay.
But I loved Mark Alpiger. He just
Mhm.
had a great energy. He was very
Mhm.
excited to be there. We see him show up with Steve Weibe, so we know that he's like nice and trying to be
Yeah.
friendly with him, the
Yeah.
outsider guy, and yeah, big fan of him. And then the guy towards the beginning, who's only in it for like 5 seconds, who says, "I don't do drugs, I don't drink.
Yeah.
I play video games," which I think is a much more powerful addiction. And I listened to that with my 11-year-old son,
Mhm.
and he said, "Yes, absolutely." So we asked our friends on Twitter and Instagram. Whoa, you didn't expect that one.
Wow.
And Dan says, "I find King of Con to be one of the best documentaries ever made. It establishes a villain in the world of arcade record setting, and Billy Mitchell is a true piece of work. He never comes off likable and humble, and you want this mulleted jerk to get his and be beaten by a much kinder person.
Mhm.
The stakes always seem much higher than they actually are. It's definitely the documentary that I have watched the most and have recommended to the most people. Really great movie."
Nice. Yes.
And I maybe have seen this one more than any other documentary as well.
I know I didn't even ask you like your relationship with this one.
Gene and I watched this towards the beginning of our marriage, and we were just dumbfounded. We just couldn't
Wow.
believe it. So we just kept watching it and showing it to people, and yeah,
Mhm.
we've watched this a ton. Betsy
Betsy.
at Gorm_Betsy says, "I don't even care about Donkey Kong, and even I loved this documentary. Heroes, villains, rivalries, high scores, American flag ties. This movie has it all."
I agree, Betsy.
Billy has that ridiculous interview moment where they ask him, what initials do you put in? And he goes through this whole song and dance, and it's like, dude, can you just answer the question, please? And he says USA. I would always do my initials, SRV.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I always do like MCR.
Yeah. Because you love My Chemical Romance.
That's right.
Do I know your middle name?
Take a guess. Come on down. Dun, dun,
I know we've
dun.
talked about
Dun,
this
dun,
before.
dun. I actually don't know yours. No, I do because I gave you a nickname.
Michelle Catherine?
No.
No, you're not Catholic.
No.
Michelle Kugel?
Michelle Kugel Rubenstengel.
Michelle
Wait, you're
Corey?
R? R?
Yeah, R.
Robert?
No.
Rick?
Close.
Rickard?
Oh my God. Yeah. Famous name. Rickard. Michelle Charles. No.
Close to Rick,
Yeah.
but not Richard.
I didn't say it wasn't Richard.
Oh, you're not telling me? You're
No,
gatekeeping
it's
your middle name?
Richard.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Yeah. You said Rick. Richard is close to Rick.
I thought I said Richard first.
No. No, you said Robert.
Oh.
Colleen?
Do I look like a Colleen?
Is it 2 syllables?
Yes.
That took you a little longer than I would have thought. Michelle.
I'll give you a hint.
Yeah.
4 letters.
Kara.
Yeah.
I don't think I did know that. I would have remembered
Oh.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Glad we got that out of the way.
Well, okay.
Whew.
Ben at Ben Sower says this is a doc that you couldn't make up. One of the best doc villains, in my opinion. Digital Physics Film and Game says Donkey Kong kill screen coming up. Donkey Kong kill screen coming up. So those are some people that we do know. Now we go to a segment of the show where we hear from people that we don't know. It's called Half Star, 3-star, 5-star. These are reviews from letterboxd.com, which is a movie logging, reviewing, list making, friend making website and app. And we start with a half-star review, which is the lowest rating that you can give a film. And we go all the way up to a 5-star review, which is the highest rating that you can give a film. And the half-star review, I am going to read as... I was going to do it as Mario.
Oh, that works.
The unsung hero of Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Half-star review says, this documentary is the equivalent of I'm Dirty Dan. No, I'm Dirty Dan. I am only giving it half of a star because there was some cool music. Like, sure, it's endearing to find meaning in the mundaneness of everyday life, and these people got some actual joy out of playing an arcade game. But do we really need a documentary about it? Hey! Half star.
Do you think if we didn't say that was Mario, people would guess that was Mario?
No, not at all. That's not really what Mario sounds like. That was just an Italian guy. Mario's like, woohoo!
That's right. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be a guy named Mario.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was Mario, the guy at Fun Spot.
That's right. Working the concession stand.
Anyway, giving it half a star because there was some cool music. There was. This is a great soundtrack. We've got Obsession, Eye of the Tiger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's the other one? Oh, You're the Best Around from Karate Kid, which I know you haven't seen, but they were definitely going for, because Eye of the Tiger is Rocky, and then You're the Best is Karate Kid. So they're bringing us into a mindset here with the music. And yes, we do need a documentary about it because we need a documentary about everything.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
3-star review says The King of Kong is a scrubby gamer documentary that feels like gum underneath the dining table at an outdated Pizza Hut. Yet, it's a good story with some big personalities. Donkey Kong is just a vehicle for these men to want to bully the chilled out, humble human, Steve Weibe. Poor Steve Weibe.
Yeah.
In this movie. As a person, he's got a whole life.
Yeah, I think he's fine. But when you touch gum underneath the table,
yeah. Well, you have to touch it before you put it in your mouth because you have to know which one is freshest. 5-star review says The King of Kong is a real life good versus evil, David and Goliath, underdog versus favorite story. It's also a movie about honor, discipline, and principle. That the central conflict of the movie is over an old school arcade game such as Donkey Kong is what makes it extraordinary. The arcade game itself parallels the story of Steve Weibe taking on Billy Mitchell, which is true. I didn't think about it like that, but Steve Weibe is Mario climbing up.
Yeah.
They make for a perfect hero and villain, respectively. I believe that The King of Kong is probably one of the greatest sports documentaries ever made.
Wow.
Yep. And little twist here, that 5-star review was written by Shawshank.
Shawshank?
Yep.
Wow, we should feature our patrons' reviews.
I just did.
No. Wow. Shawshank.
Good job, Shawshank. Very well said.
Good job.
All right, let's talk about our happies and crappies.
It's time for happies and crappies. Happies and crappies. It's time for happies and
All right, Michelle, what do you got for a happy and a crappy?
My crappy was, as much as I want to say Billy Mitchell as just a human,
Mm-hmm.
it's not true because I really got a kick out of him. So I'm gonna say Billy Mitchell. No, I wrote down, but like after our talking about it, I'm like changing my mind. I think I'm gonna go back to like the Walter stuff
Okay, sure.
of him in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my happy is just all of Brian Koo. All of him. Like when I tell you I'm so fascinated by him and he was like, "Yeah, I retired at 30 so I can get a place up at Fun Spot and go
Yeah.
to the arcade."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have two for each.
Okay.
So my first happy is everything with Steve drawing on his glass,
Yeah. Wasn't that
and then
cool?
how they take those like white lines and apply it to like him playing the drums. That sequence I think is like really, really good, creative, like
Yeah.
interesting documentary making. And then my other happy is Robert Murchek in his apartment talking about watching 48 Hours of Nibbler and just how seriously he takes it. And like he resigned from Twin Galaxies even before this documentary came out
Oh, wow.
because of it just wasn't,
Hmm.
they weren't playing by the rules that Walter had set up. And he was like, I'm not doing it. And so it just made me so happy that like, yes, you could watch this and be like, look at these nerds, right?
Mhm.
But they love it. They're taking it seriously and they're trying to excel to a level that other people have not before. And everything with Robert, I just loved. And I loved that his integrity went beyond just saying, like, oh, I'm a scorekeeper. Like, he really
Yeah.
took it seriously.
Yeah.
And then my crappies are when Billy Mitchell's wife reveals that she's never seen him compete
I mean,
live. And
talking about
just
a
all of
bomb
that
being dropped.
when all of that stuff just starts to kind of fall apart. And then my other one is really weird, but it's when they interview Steve's students and they're complimenting Steve on his teaching style and they say, "Oh, do you know that he's like going for this world record?" And the student says, All the teachers in this school are so weird."
The science teachers.
And not to like highlight and pick on a kid because you're a kid, like what do you know? But I think for this whole month, I think that just like really spoke to me to be like, you know what? Be interested in what people are interested in. Actually pay attention to what people have going on and don't just reduce them to like, oh, this weird guy,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
Because you can live your whole life that way. You can live your whole life like that person and just be like, oh, okay. Or you can be like these documentary makers and like invest time to tell people's story and show them as full people. And yeah. All right. So we rate a film as a schmovie, a movie, or a film. We rate it 1 through 5 stars, give our recommendations and final thoughts. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
So do you reveal your guess
Yeah.
then? Okay.
Okay. So I know, right? I wrote down you were rating this 4.5
Very nice.
as a movie.
Very close. So I'm going to say that this is a 4.5 film.
Wow, really? A film, huh?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
I think this is a great time. It's such a joy to watch this. You can watch it just for the competition history of video games. As someone who loves video games, this is exciting. It's cool to watch. And I recommend everybody watch this. I think that this movie has something for everyone. And I'm very appreciative of the patrons for picking this one.
Good
This
job,
is
patrons.
like a big one. Like, this is a type of movie that when we started, I was like, oh, how are we going to talk about King of Con?
Started the show or started
Yeah, started the
Docu-June?
show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now for me, it's just like, okay, how do I get Michelle to watch The Exorcist?
Way to slide that in there. So you won twice this month. This one
Yeah,
and American Movie.
yeah. Good month. Okay, so for you, I wrote down that you were going to give this 4 stars and call it a film.
Okay. Yes, 4 stars.
Mm-hmm.
This is a movie to me which movie threads through it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am definitely recommending this. This was a really good, fun time. I will be talking about this one. I also agree. I think there's something for everyone in it. And I'm really glad we did it. This was really enjoyable to watch.
4 good ones in a row.
This is a good month.
Yeah, like you said, thematically, Thin Blue Line it's on the other side of the room,
That's right.
but still very interesting characters. You
That's
know,
for sure.
very interesting people. American movie, all time great. Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
Perfect bid. Finding out more about how it was made. I mean, my goodness. And then this one,
I know.
again, mostly made by one person.
I
Holy
know.
cow.
This just like was a nice cherry on top of our little sundae or whatever we just made. Potato salad.
With a foot on top.
That's right. Sock, optional.
Hey, if your socks are optional, we'd love it if you'd give us a rating and a review wherever you're listening. 1 star, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5. I don't know. Maybe your player goes up to 10 stars. Remember, we're trying to beat Jamie Kennedy, and only you can help us do that. We'd also love it if you'd send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know if you watched along with us this month. Let us know what your favorite was. You can also support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. $5 a month gets you access to all of our additional episodes, our patron-only Discord, where you can ask us questions. We had a whole Pop-Tart thing going in there for like a day. There was a day's discussion on Pop-Tarts. I ended up eating. Our patron Kate suggested a way to eat them.
Which was?
Well, I'm not going to share.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
that's the
That's the
private.
beauty.
That's the cool stuff, man, that you're missing out on.
I learned quite a lot about myself after pulling out. I went into asking people how you eat a Pop Tart thinking everyone was like me, and it turns out, nope.
People are calling you a psycho.
Yeah.
Yep.
Multiple people. Monster, serial killer.
Yeah. I just got to eat Pop Tarts in a new and interesting way. I got out of that one clean.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And you also get to vote on monthly episodes and monthly themes once a quarter, which was documentary month. So, thank you, patrons, for voting for documentaries. This was a lot of fun. But the fun is over because Michelle and I are back in control. And
Dun,
next
dun,
month,
dun.
we came to this in a very, very, very roundabout way. Basically, a few months back, Michelle was like, I want to watch this movie. And I said, okay, we can come up with a theme around
Yeah.
that movie for
Yeah.
July.
Because
And
I'm
we came up,
obsessed. Yeah. With this particular person right now.
so then we came up with the theme. And then as it got closer, we were like, no, this theme isn't really good. So then I pitched 3 to 4 different themes that could also encapsulate this film.
Yeah.
And like none of them really worked out. So for the first time ever, we're going to spend a whole month focusing on one actor.
Wow.
And
And let it be known, this actor's fine, right?
yeah,
I'm, not someone I'm obsessed with.
me either, which I will make very clear.
So keep that in
So,
mind.
yeah. But you know what? We're just going to go for it.
We are. We
We're
like
just
to.
going to do
I
it.
remember like you like pitching in, and then I was just like, I kind of like weird.
And you know what? We're still planning on August, taking off August for the
That's
most
right.
part.
That's
And
right.
so this is kind of like it's Friday before vacation.
That's right.
So July
Yes.
is kind of like, all right, it's the month before vacation.
Let them be
What
zany.
do we got?
What are we
Okay.
doing? Okay.
So for July, we are doing Jim Lie or Ju 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 Carly. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to be focusing on the films of Jim Carrey for the month of July. And we're going to start out with Man on the Moon from 1999, directed by Milos Forman. And it's 118 minutes. This is not currently streaming, but each month brings new arrivals, so you never know. Anyway, Michelle, you want to kind of explain why?
I'm so excited. I was watching Taxi a couple of months ago. Got into that. That led me down an Andy Kaufman research hole, and I talked to Seth about it, and I was like, I really want to watch Man on the Moon. Are we going to do it for the podcast? So then, as you know, now you know the background story as we just explained.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you could watch it on your own. That is an option. I'm like, I am not watching extra stuff
Yeah.
unless for a podcast. Although I have to say, this month I watched like a couple of documentaries on my own. So I'm more likely to watch a documentary. Anyway,
Right.
I am so stoked. And I might watch there is a documentary about Man on the Moon, right?
Yes, there is. It's called
Is it like Jim and Andy?
Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond.
I will definitely watch that.
And guess what? It's directed by Chris Smith,
Whoa.
who directed American Movie.
I mean, come on, guys. It's
Oh,
Friday, baby.
real quick, I just had to bring up this weird connection today in all my research.
Yes.
Last week when we talked about Perfect Bid, we talked about CJ Wallace. This week we're talking about Billy Mitchell. Come to find out, CJ Wallace directed a comedy that has Billy Mitchell, the real person, in it as an actor. My wig flew off when I found out this weird connection. And you know what? For this month, I'm just going to call that the Movie Friends effect, the retroactive Movie Friends effect.
Totally.
What are the chances? Literally, think about what the chances are
I know.
that you picked CJ Wallace's film, not knowing anything about him. Our patrons vote for King of Con. Boom. You can't, like, am I in a simulation? Am I a sim right now?
We are Sims.
All right, so documentary month done. Great month. Next month, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because and let's preface by saying, like, there's no rhyme or reason to what we're choosing.
No,
It's
Jim
not like we're
Carrey?
doing Jim in a serious way, or we're gonna like
No,
start with his earliest film and let's like study his acting. Nope, it's just movies that involve him.
he's got a big filmography. We will not be doing the Truman Show because we already covered it. Go back and listen to that episode. That was a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, all right. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Seth. Thanks, patrons.
Thanks, patrons. This was fun. All right, until next week when we're talking about Man on the Moon from 1999. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Vicora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks!